Hey everyone, welcome to the moon forecast for the full moon in Pisces we have coming up on September 17th. I'm Kendall with the Bohemian Tarot Girl.
I'm Amy with Wild Reawakening, and here we are for another full moon. This one is also an eclipse. We are starting this off at 7:34 p.m. Pacific. So go ahead and adjust that for wherever you are in the world. And this one is happening at 25, almost 26 degrees of Pisces. So go ahead and take a look at where that is in your chart if you want to get some ideas of the themes that might be coming up for you. Um,
Yeah.
Eclipse season, here we go, right?
Yeah, this one's an interesting one. The fact that we're shifting into that new kind of eclipse portal where we're going into that new access that'll run through 2027. But we're still kind of, it's going to be an eclipse in Pisces, but it's a partial eclipse, right? Because the nodes are still in that old Libra Aries axis. And so here we are. We have kind of this conflicting Aries energy still dragging along with this Pisces eclipse. And so I just feel like it's very, um, it's going to be a little bit different. How are you feeling? How are
Oh,
you feeling about this? I don't know how I feel.
there's very, very different energy between the where the nodes have been. We've had the North Node in Aries and the South Node in Libra, and the Aries Libra axis is so much about your individual self and your self in partnership with others and in your relationships. And so we're shifting into this, and not even quite yet, because we still have some other eclipses coming up that are going to still be in that Aries Libra axis.
Few more.
And so we're getting our first taste, we're dipping our toes into this energy of Pisces and Virgo. And Pisces is all about the spiritual self and your intuition and your like higher level um, ways of being. It's not necessarily grounded in reality. And then we have Virgo, which is very much about the reality and what is concrete and what we can see and kind of the day-to-day planning of things. And Pisces is kind of off in its own world. And so we it's a very very different energy than what we've been dealing with, and it'll be in it because the nodes are something that happens on a collective level. We all feel them. It's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. So we're just kind of getting our first taste of this, and with the other energies that are happening right now, it um has a little bit of a discombobulated
Yes.
energy to it. Full moons. I feel like I'm getting ahead of myself. See, it's already happening. so, so full moons happen when the sun is opposite the moon. And you have two very separate energies, and we're kind of trying. I look at it as a time when we're trying to find middle ground, and you're having these two different aspects illuminated. And so Pisces being kind of ethereal, spiritual, intuitive. Um, there's sometimes some illusion that comes with Pisces because it isn't very grounded in reality,
No.
is having this effect during Virgo season. And Virgo season is very calculated, orderly, concrete. It's very what is real, what is the plan, where are we going, what are the correct steps to take in order to get from point A to point B. And Pisces has no plan. So how do we mesh these two things? So that's kind of what we're going to talk about today.
Well, and we have the fact that I don't know, I just can't. I feel like, you know, if it was some Libra energy, we'd be a little bit better, but paired with that Aries in your North Node energy, and it's at 6 degrees. So it's really at that beginning mark of energy. And I find it interesting being paired with it because Aries is such a fiery energy and it's so different than Pisces. And I feel like that is going to be very internally, like it's going to be conflicting energy. And it's interesting that it's paired with like where you're going, right? Like where we're kind of leading our lives to with that North Node energy. So I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, it's, you know, and of course it's never just about the moon, even though when we do have full moons, we're looking at kind of the path that we've traveled, what we're ready to release, what doesn't need to go with us on the next part of our journey, what cycles are closing. And this definitely has the element of cycles closing for you. Um, because this is the start of a new cycle in a new realm of these nodes. So it's good to kind of take some time during this moon to reflect, okay, what is coming to completion? What can I let go of? What have I learned about myself? Because we've been in this Aries thing. What have I been learning about myself, and where do I want to invest in this next part? There's and it's interesting. So I always like to look at the patterns of things.
Yeah.
So we can look back at when we had this last Pisces eclipse, which would have been in 2016. September of 2016 was the last Pisces eclipse. So that'll give you a little bit of an idea. But the last time the North Node was in Pisces was during 2006, 2007. So look at the themes of your life that were going on. If anything major kind of stood out to you at that time, if there were big realizations. One of the themes of Pisces North Node is a lot of times an up leveling in your spiritual growth. You may have certain spiritual gifts that you receive, or enlightenment around an aspect of your spiritual development. A greater awareness of of the universe, or your personal spirituality. So those are just some general themes that come up. I don't know.
I feel
Do
like,
you remember what was going on for you back then?
no, I'd have to think a little bit deeper. Nothing like pops out at me. I think it's a good reminder though, because I would call this at the beginning and ish. Like we're doing some wrap up, but we're really kind of coming into like a new cycle. And so if you have not been following cycles, if you follow us at all, Amy and I are really big into cycles, both short cycles as well as the long cycles. This is a great time to do some journal activities, write down this information about what these eclipses are in, key elements that are going on in your life. That way you can see the cycles and make sure that you're not repeating things, that you're clearing things out, and that you're moving forward in your life. Because that is really what the gift is of being able to see the cycles and what the universe has provided us with this. Um, and we do have a short cycle if you want to think about it too, with the solar eclipse that we have coming up on October 2nd, because the eclipses come in usually a pair. And so, even during this short window of time, pay attention to what's going on in your life, what's changing, what's leaving, where are you planting seeds and seeing things shift. Because the cycle in our lives and being able to see what is going on is key to really moving forward and really moving out of some of the patterns that we have in our life that hold us back. So
Absolutely.
that's my spiel on the patterns.
Yeah, and I don't know. We were trying to figure out the energy for what is happening now. And the thing that Kendall and I, because we get together and we chat about this before we actually get on there and talk to you, so we're not totally like freelancing it. But one of the things that it kept popping up is that there's kind of this scattered energy here, because the moon is our emotional landscape, and things all making noise over here. The moon is our emotional landscape, and we're kind of leaning into that. And then there's this, you know the sun is our physical reality, and the sun being in Virgo, it's really trying to, like, what you see is what you get, and there's a certain you do this step and this step and this step, and it gets you from point A to point B. And here we have this emotional element that's coming in that is also so intuitive. And it's like there's no path, and you don't know the path, and you don't know which way you're going. And there's this really big, strong sense of leaning in to that part of yourself right now and trusting the way that things are going to unfold and trusting your own intuitive knowing um, to kind of guide you right now. And if you're someone who is very analytical and very grounded in reality and takes things for how you see them and how you recognize, you know, your path forward, this can cause a lot of uh, anxiety
Yes.
and a lot of mental just confusion. And that's why I said discombobulated earlier. It's there's not going to be a clear sense of what is unfolding at the moment.
Yep.
So really, how are you going to lean into that better, and how can you practice utilizing and trusting your intuition and leaning into your spiritual side? And it's, I don't know, like,
It's hard, and especially, we were talking a little bit before about egos, and this is just like a side conversation, right? And how, people are really stuck in their life because of, how their ego comes into play. Like you've committed to a path and you want to see it through, and it's hard to let things go in order to change. And it's so interesting because I feel very fluid in life. I don't tend to sign on to like I have to do it this way. Sometimes I approach a situation and like moving or whatever it is that comes up in your life, and you have a plan and you think it's going to go forward in that manner, and then all of a sudden something changes and you have to shift and go and it works out. And I'm fine with that. It's maybe sometimes it's not the most funnest thing, but I think a lot of people during this time, it might come up that you might have set a hard path for yourself, and that hard path is not going to be the way. And this Pisces energy is going to bring in that more free for all kind of experience into your life. And so you have to be willing to see that. You have to be willing to not grasp onto the path that you wanted to go, because really you're going to be led somewhere else, and it's going to be okay. It might not be where you thought you were going. It's going to be somewhere new, and that's okay too. So,
mm, yeah, sometimes trying to stick to one certain direction just because you've committed to that direction can make your life so much harder than if you're willing
yes.
to kind of be more fluid and pivot a little bit into a direction that is probably more meant for you.
Mhm.
Uh, so see what's coming up for you at this time, and see where there's resistance and see where everything feels like a struggle, because real, I don't know, quotes coming into my head as I talk. Um, but it's one of those, when I stop, struggling, I float. Like there's you want to be in Pisces being a water sign, like the more you can kind of like float and let things go, the easier the pathway is going to unfold. And typically, when that happens, when the universe starts rearranging things, which we have other aspects that are kind of highlighting that
Yeah.
the universe is at work in rearranging things in unexpected ways. Um, Usually, when it does that, it's putting you in a direction that you would not have considered before, but that is ultimately in your best and highest good. So letting go of, like you were saying, the concrete
Mhm. Just let it
concrete
go.
way of being, is better. Um, there was something interesting about this moon that I picked up on as we were kind of going over things. And that was that Virgo is ruled by Mercury. And Mercury is a highly mental take that as you will. It's a very mental sign. It thinks a lot, and it thinks of things in a very, what's the word I'm looking for? You probably don't know either.
I
But
don't know.
it's very systematic, and it's very like organized, and so it communicates that way, and it sets things up that way to be done particularly. I mean, if you've ever known a Virgo, they're usually very organized, very meticulous, very like, this is the list and I'm going to check it off. Like that's
With
just
their
how
past.
the energy is, and it definitely has a purpose. Um, but Mercury happens to be in Virgo at the same time. So we have we have it sitting in its home sign right with this moon. And then Pisces is ruled by Neptune. And Neptune is, like we said, all about the intuitive and the, ethereal and fluidity and, you know, illusion and like nothing that's concrete at all. And Neptune happens to be in Pisces, sitting conjunct this moon as well. So we've got another element of it being, so it's almost like double impact energy right now.
Yep.
Um, and so these elements and this opposition is going to be even more noticeable and potent, and creating some internal internal conflict here. So with that, um, we have those. I'm gonna go back to my notes here so I can make sure I get it right.
Let's talk about
Um,
the double spices. Yes.
yeah, this moon is sextiling Uranus and Taurus, which Uranus is the change agent planet. Like that's the one that is going to have these sudden upheavals and surprise elements coming in. And then it's also that Uranus and Taurus is trining Pluto and Capricorn, and Pluto is all about transformation. And that Pluto and Capricorn is also trining or sextiling this moon. So they're having these conversations together that is creating this whole sense of unexpected pivoting in directions that you may not be able to see clearly or be able to understand or be able to create a plan around. But surprise, something is shifting and changing and turning in ways that are very unpredictable right now. And that's the element of having to really lean into letting things flow, trusting your intuition, um, being open to receiving spiritual guidance from your higher self or your spirit team, or whatever other spiritual messages that you where you get your spiritual guidance and your sense of spirituality, because that's different for everybody. Yeah, it's very transformation, energetic shifts.
I would agree. But I really like the moon in Pisces with the sextile to Uranus and Taurus because it is one, it's a good aspect. It's harmonious and things it's kind of give us a little bit of a good vibes boost with this energy. So I think if you can kind of like hone in on this, and there's going to be emotions that come into play with this piece. And I think that is key, that it's going to allow you to become free, and it's going to give you this emotional freedom. It's going to allow you to embrace change. And I think if you don't resist it and you allow kind of like, your guidance from source telling you what do you need to do in order to change and to go down a path, and then you kind of embrace it through your emotions and let all the negative go, right? You don't want to follow those negative emotions. You want to focus on the positive emotions. And I think it's going to be relieving to people if you
Mhm.
can kind of get yourself in that space. And I'm hoping, because this is some decent energy coming into play with this, that it's going to help people and they're going to feel better about the transition and change. They're going to have these kind of like inspirational source guided aha moments, and they're just going to be like, it's okay. And by doing that, you're going to feel liberated, right? You're going to feel like there is weight off your back and that you're feeling better about life and you have this new way to go. So you kind of just have to let it flow and then also really shift your emotions. Make sure you're not focusing on those negative emotions. Make sure that you're focusing your emotions in the positive way. And I think you're going to change how you feel about what is going on and the changes that you're being asked to take on. So
Mhm. Yeah. And this, you know, where do I want to go first?
I know.
So, so with the sun being in Virgo at 25 degrees, and then we have Uranus in Taurus, which is the other earth sign, and then Pluto in Capricorn, which is another earth sign, it's kind of creating this grand trine. So imagine a triangle um, in the earth signs. And so there is a grounding element to this. And also with the Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, those are all outer planets. So when they are having these big transits and stuff, it's something that happen. We have the outer planets we consider to be collective planets, whereas planets like Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, those are more personal planets that kind of affect us more individually. Um, so when this is happening in the outer planets, it's like this big collective energy. And so everyone is going to be affected by this in some way. And there's also been a lot of talk in kind of the spiritual community about this shift that's been going on in this raising of this energetic vibration that's happening with humanity and how that is changing um, the energy of the earth and how we participate in our earthly experience here. And so if you've heard terms like, 3D shifting to 5D, this is very much the energy that's helping people go from a more concrete black and white reality into a more spiritual, higher vibrational energy shift. So we're collectively kind of navigating this 3D to 5D vibrational shift right now. And this planetary alignment and energy that's coming in is really helping to facilitate this up leveling. And so when that happens, when we're going through this kind of energetic up leveling, a lot of things that you'll experience potentially for yourself is that you might have heightened intuition. You might be having very vivid dreams. You might be remembering past life situations or exploring those realms. You might suddenly have psychic abilities that you did not know that you had previously. You might feel inspired to write or create, or your talents might be elevated, or you're discovering new talents that you didn't know that you have. So there's just it's a very different energy that is coming in and has been coming in for a while. If you've been following us or you've been following the planetary energies, you'll see that there has been this progression over the last, I would say, 20 years,
hmm
but it's rapidly increasing as we get closer and closer to, I don't know what the endpoint is, if there is an endpoint, but it's
I feel like there's more of like a 2027 endpoint I think we're going to see, and then there'll be potentially another shift. I haven't looked obviously that far forward. So that makes it, I have a tendency to look back because I'm trying to figure out, past patterns that I've had. So I don't spend a lot of time with that forward unless it's like my direct future.
Mhm. Yeah, you 2027 is a year that has been coming up in the spiritual community for a long time as being something pivotal
Mm,
that
yes.
happens. I haven't looked too much into it yet either because I try not to obsess about future stuff, or worry until it happens.
hmm
Not that this is something you need to worry about, but there has been talk of something big happening in 2027 that is a very different vibrational shift. But yeah, I would say, I mean, even just looking back, because I've been doing this type of work or had an interest in it, for over 20 years. Um, 20 years ago, like nobody talked about this stuff very
Yeah,
publicly. And so now there's definitely more of an awareness. People are interested. They're recognizing how their spirituality is part of their life. Even stuff that was considered new age and taboo is now more mainstream. I laugh every time I go into a bookstore now because it used to be like in the dark corner in the back that nobody wanted to be seen in, and now they've got tarot cards and astrology books at the front of the bookstore, like, here, pay attention. So there's definitely been an awareness happening, and it's escalating quickly, and it's ushering in just a very different energy and perspective that I think has been really needed for a long time. And so it's going to be, I'm curious to see how it continues to progress and what changes
yes,
and how it changes how we navigate humanity in the future.
I agree. No, it'll be interesting to see what comes up. So I don't like to speculate too much, but yeah.
No.
But it's interesting, like a lot of these aspects, I feel like, and we haven't really talked too much about how Jupiter's interaction with this moon, but it's interesting that this piece, these aspects are bringing in that emotional piece that's kind of lacking, I would say, in this eclipse energy. And it's kind of pushing these emotional need for balancing, right? And so there's a square with the moon in Pisces and Jupiter in Gemini, and it's really about asking people to balance their emotions and to not feel overwhelmed and to not overindulge and like drag yourself down the emotional spiral of doom. And so I think that's the key. I feel like these are to navigate this eclipse and to have it come out for your best and higher self. I feel like your emotions and how you manage them and how you keep them really on that positive path is really going to be key to how you're going to feel about this eclipse and what happens during this time. So I just want to make people aware of that if you're concerned about this, kind of stepping into this new path, if there are some big life-changing events, it's really about, you can get through it really well if you focus in on your emotions and making sure that you're not kind of letting yourself go down a spiral of doom and that you're focusing in on that really positive stuff. So,
Yeah, because Jupiter is the planet that expands everything it comes in contact with. And usually it's pretty lucky. But when it's squaring something like this moon, which a square is a tense energy, Jupiter right now is in Gemini, which is also ruled by Mercury. So you've got this sun, you've got like this super mental, very active mind energy, which is squaring this very emotional moon.
mhm,
And it's like, not only can your emotions run away with it, but your anxiety can be so ramped up and like you said, spiraling, because it's like, well, what about this? And what about that? And it's like, as I was looking into this, I got the term, like, it's like mental gymnastics. Like, are you creating
interesting. That's yeah.
situations that don't exist? And are you overthinking and overanalyzing and over like worrying and, this just over expansive focus on every single possibility and how bad it can be.
Yes.
And then letting that affect your emotions as well. Because if you've ever known a very emotional Gemini, you'll
Yeah.
know, like, it's like they can get caught in this loop of doom. It's like doom scrolling, like, but it's happening in your head at a very rapid pace and you can't control it or stop it.
Mhm.
So really, this is a very good time to allow yourself to do whatever you need to do to kind of settle into your nervous system a little bit better and disengage your thought process if it does feel like it's spiraling into chaos, these mental
Yes.
gymnastics. Um, I usually don't tell people like, I don't know, check out.
Yeah.
But this might be one of those times where checking out is actually beneficial to your overall well-being. So doing things like, going for a walk,
Mhm.
or coloring, or reading a book, or watching that series on Netflix for like the 20th time. If you feel like you are getting overamped and over
Spirally.
yeah, like overstimulated to the point where it's really affecting your nervous system and your ability to feel settled into your body, like then it's okay. Go ahead and check out for a while and then come back when you're feeling a little more grounded and steady and
Yeah.
peaceful.
And I feel that energy, not now, but I'm just saying like I definitely feel that. And there's many times where I'll text Amy and I'll be like, "Are you feeling jittery today?" Because I know internally it's not my life that's causing that. It's something else that's causing it. And so just being able to separate the energy that's being that's out there right now versus really internalizing it for yourself and applying it to yourself. You have to be able to kind of separate that out and just know when to step away and to take your moment and have a breather. You don't want to avoid the situation, but it's important to not let yourself go down that wrong way, right? And get so overwhelmed with those emotions that are going to come up during this time that it's really going to impede where you need to go. So,
Mm, for sure. Yeah.
any
And
anything else you want to?
I had a couple things written down, and I feel like we've touched on the main points. One of the things to really just remember during this time is that while things are kind of shifting from the concrete plan to this like ethereal detour,
Yep, I like that.
is that what is really happening is that it's going from a very set course to a lot of different options. And in that space, of having multiple options and multiple realities, there's like this opportunity for pure potentiality. And I think that a lot of times we get so caught up in the idea that things aren't going according to plan
Yep.
and the world is falling apart and nothing's going right. It's like if we kind of shift that way of thinking a little bit into there are now so many more options that I hadn't considered and so many more possibilities of what could happen that could be so much more beneficial. Um, how we look at the world and how we believe our reality to be really shifts what actually comes our way.
Yep.
And so trying to um, keep that like little pocket of potential in your realm of awareness can really make or break what happens from here. So,
I like
yeah.
that. I think that's a good reminder. So, well, do you have anything else to add or?
Um, I just, right after this moon, we're going to be on the 22nd. We're going to be shifting. We have the equinox. We're going to be shifting into Libra season.
Yep.
And we're going to see that as we shift into Libra season, especially with, that being our south node and the way that the planetary energy is going, is that Libra kind of brings in more of a sense of balance to things that we haven't really had over the last couple of months. And so just kind of wait it out after this moon,
Yep.
release what you need to release, sit with yourself, get honed into your intuitiveness and your spirituality and really lean into that, which I suggest to people regularly, whether it's Pisces moon or not. but but Um, I just feel like once we kind of like have this shift into the next sign, there's going to be a sense of things kind of evening out, and where there might have been injustice before, it's like that there's kind of things are rectified in a way that brings more, I don't know. I don't want to say stable because I don't know that it's necessarily stable, but more of a sense of peace around how things are unfolding than there
Yeah,
might
okay.
be.
There you go.
So
All right, I like it. Just don't worry, everyone. Have a grateful moon. Things are shifting, things are changing. You're starting down on a new path. Everything's going to be fine. Don't spiral out of control. If you get overwhelmed, take a walk. So that's our advice in a nutshell. We will see you next time for the full moon or new moon.
yeah.
All right. See you later. Bye, everyone.